Morning, everybody. We'll give another minute or two before we start. Welcome to the October Delaware Valley Veterans Consortium quarterly meeting. Okay, we're going to get started. We have some admin announcements, and then we'll get into the meat of the program. So good morning. My name is Hugo Lenza. I'm the Chief Strategic Partnerships Officer for the Travis Manion Foundation and the chair of this fine organization, the Delaware Valley Veterans Consortium. This is DVVC's second quarterly meeting since the pandemic forced us to change how we communicate and get together. DVVC is the area's Community Veteran Engagement Board, or CVEB, whose mission it is to unite military and veteran service organizations and advocates who share common goals to build programmatic capacity and increase services to clients under the umbrella of regional collaboration. This meeting is designed to share information about DVVC events, activities, and planning, and provide resource information to DVVC members and others working in the veteran space. When we've met in person, we spend the first several minutes of the meeting introducing ourselves to the others who are present. In lieu of that, if you haven't done so already, we'd like you to add your name of your organization, and a link to its website in the chat box. You can save the chat box at the end of the meeting through clicking on the three buttons to the right of the space where you type your message. If you need information on how to do this, ask us in the chat box. So two announcements to share. I hope everybody's aware that the Philadelphia Veterans Parade is virtual this year, and it's on November 8th from 12:15 to 1:30 p.m. We'll be sending out information about the parade in the next newsletter, but keep that time open. There will be highlights from previous years and short videos from VSOs who serve veterans in the Philadelphia region. The other thing I would point out is go to the website, and they are also doing interviews on TV with various veteran service organizations. So the deadline for videos, I think, is today, but there's still plenty of time if you want your organization to be highlighted within the Veterans Parade through an interview, on camera or virtual interview. So if you're interested in that, please go, just type in Philadelphia Veterans Parade. It's in the chat box. The people there are super responsive, so if you have any questions, don't hesitate to email them. In addition, DVVC is co-sponsoring a program on November 8th at 7 p.m. on A Story from the War with Ambassador John L. Withers II. Ambassador Withers will discuss his book, Balm in Gilead, A Story from the War, which tells the story of his father, Lieutenant John L. Withers, who was part of an all-black U.S. Army truck company that played a role soon after the liberation of Dachau by caring for and housing two former inmates at Dachau during the remaining months of his father's troops deployment in Europe. You can register in advance for this webinar, and that link will also be in chat. Presented by the Jewish Federation of Greater Philadelphia's Jewish Community Relations Council in partnership with the Delaware Valley Veterans Consortium, the Anti-Defamation League Philadelphia, and the Black Jewish Alliance of the Anti-Defamation League, the American Jewish Committee, Philadelphia, Southern New Jersey, and the Philadelphia Holocaust Remembrance Foundation and Council for Relationships. Those are all the co-sponsors. All right, so now we get to do some exciting stuff. I'm turning the mic over to Nancy Isserman, the Delaware Valley Veterans Consortium Vice Chair, to conduct our 2021 election. The floor is yours, Nancy.
Hi. So good morning, everyone. And before we hold the elections, we want to show you the video submission from DVVC for the Delaware Valley Veterans Consortium. And before that, I want to give credit to the people who created it. So we are truly grateful to Mr. Bill Orr for this professional production. Bill is the representative of DVVC Member Organization Fighting Back Scholarship Program, where he serves on the board of directors, and he is a particular advocate of the Fighting Back Veteran Program, which provides injured veterans in our area with a one-on-one post-rehabilitative exercise program. In his day job, Bill is president and CEO of Telraw Productions, a digital media company, and he and his staff put this together as a generous donation to DVVC. We are also grateful to our photographers, Mr. Gary Altunian, owner of Altunian Photography, who also donated his services, capturing one of our more engaging quarterly meetings, and Mo Gillen, chair of our hardworking marketing and social media committee, and former Army Public Affairs officer who always tries to have a camera or cell phone ready. Additional thanks to Fern Billett, Nicole Meeks, and numerous others who had a role in this production. And now we'd like to show you the video.
Did you know the Delaware Valley Veterans Consortium is comprised of more than 100 veteran-serving organizations throughout the region? DVVC is a volunteer consortium focused on collaboration, referrals, and knowledge sharing. Our mission is to unite military and veteran service organizations to build programs and increase services under the umbrella of regional collaboration. Representatives meet for quarterly networking seminars with presentations or panel discussions on topics of value to the military and veteran community. And we maintain robust communication channels to stay apprised between meetings. DVVC provides member organizations with opportunities to connect with others who seek to empower veterans in the region, collaborate with other organizations and discover their capabilities, communicate with like-minded organizations to share news and updates. The Delaware Valley Veterans Consortium has been nationally recognized by the Department of Veterans Affairs as a Community Veteran Engagement Board for our community-based efforts to improve veteran outcomes and make our community a veteran-friendly place to live, work, and raise a family. Does your organization serve veterans in our region? Join us. Visit dvvc.weebly.com to learn more and like us on social media.
Okay, thank you very much. We're going to put up the slide now for our election positions on the executive committee. So the slate was sent to DVVC members in September, and we're going to run through the slate right now as soon as it shows up on the screen. Well, I'll talk before it shows up. The positions are uncontested right now, so we're going to treat this as one slate and vote with a approve or a disapprove. But before we do that, I want to give everyone the chance to nominate from the floor. One more chance to please take nominations from the floor. So if anyone wants to nominate someone else for any of the positions, president, secretary, or the two at-large members, please put your name in the chat box so that we can add that. So let me, as I'm running through the names right now, we'll have somebody check the chat box in case somebody else wants to nominate someone. So running for chairman is Hugo Lenza, Travis Manion Foundation Army veteran, and he's the current incumbent. For secretary, we have Ashley Griffiths, Habitat for Humanity volunteer, currently incumbent. For members at large, we had two vacancies. And we have running Hank Gillen, Director of Veteran Services, St. Joseph's University, Army veteran incumbent, and Paula Crawford Gamble, University of Pennsylvania Veterans Care Excellence Program, Navy veteran. So I don't see in the chat box that there's been any other names suggested, as far as I can see. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to put up a polling process for this vote. You will see on your screen a poll, and it'll say to you, please check 1. Do you approve the new slate of officers? Approve or disapprove? Please vote now. We'll give a couple minutes for voting, and then we'll announce the results. And you check 1, and then you have to hit submit. Okay, I'll give another 30 seconds for voting, and then we'll announce the results. Okay, so there's a little bit of a glitch because I can't see the results. So if somebody could text me the results. Okay, just hold on 1 second. I'm just checking the results.
What? Okay.
Sorry for this glitch, but I'm just not seeing the results. So just hold on 1 second. Okay. Okay, so thank you very much, everyone, for voting. We have approval for the slate, and we congratulate all the people that were running and will be your representatives on the committee for this coming year. And in addition, we'd like to encourage all of you to please join if you're not a member of DVVC, and also to please join a committee. We have a membership, marketing, social media committee that produced this great video. We have programming that's in charge of putting on all these Zoom meetings, and technology are our current committees. Please put in the chat box if you'd like to volunteer. We'd really like that. And now I'm turning the mic over to Hugo to continue the meeting.
Great. I'm just waiting for my video to pop up, but I'll keep talking. So that video was awesome. Thank you very, very much, Mo and Bill Orr and Gary Altunian. That was cool. That was a great start to the day. I saw it first thing in my inbox this morning. So thank you very, 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 very much. Okay, so we'll get into this meeting now. During the course of this meeting, if you have a question, please use the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. We are monitoring chat, but if you have a question, please put it in Q&A. If your question is for a specific panel member, please put their name or the name of their agency with your question. At the end of all the panelists' presentation, we will ask the questions that you have entered into the box. If we run out of time and you include your email address with your question, we will send you the answer. We'll be uploading the presentation of the webinar onto our website. And this meeting on Zoom will be recorded and posted on all DVVC social media. So Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and the website. So thanks for being here. Let's get started. All right. So I will introduce each one of our panelists who will make a short presentation about their organization, the services they provide, and how they are helping veterans become employed. After we hear from each of the panelists, there will be an opportunity for them to answer questions that have been previously submitted. And then we'll also post a slide presentation on our website along with the recording, as I just mentioned. So let's start. Our first panelist is Alex Archowski, founder and former CEO of the Greater Philadelphia Veterans Network. The Greater Philadelphia Veterans Network was founded by Navy veteran Alex Archowski. Alex had to transition twice out of the service from active duty and the reserves, and both times he needed to look for a new job. Since then, he has been sharing the job searching experiences and successes with those who have been transitioning out of the military back to the Greater Philadelphia area. In 2010, he created GPVN to formalize a robust program which involves career services, help define career, job search strategy, networking plan, and resume writing. Alex has also developed programs for companies to help them better understand how to hire our veterans. GPVN's initiatives include Take a Vet to Work Day, Veteran Open House, speed networking and interviewing for student veterans, the Veteran Shark Tank, How to Hire Our Veterans Roundtable, and Take an Employer to Base Day, and other impactful programs. He is a frequent subject matter speaker at veteran hiring events, human resources conferences, and on campus with student veteran groups. So Alex, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Hugo. Thank you, DVVC, and congratulations to everybody that was re-elected. Thank you for all your efforts. That was a fabulous video, and from somebody that's been there for a long time, it's great to see the growth of the organization. So Greater Philadelphia Veterans Network, if you go to the next slide, Hugo. Our mission is the economic success of Philly vets in the Greater Philadelphia region. So personally, I transitioned twice out of the service, and through those transitions twice, I really saw what an opportunity our city had, not just helping our veteran, because I always say helping our veteran is basically 1% of their life. You help them out of the service, and then they have a whole life of their civilian life to live. So we decided to kind of do the economic success of our veterans, which is career services, which is one-on-one, workshops on campuses, workshops online, career counseling, leadership development, which when they land in their job, we help them grow, learn how to be leaders within their organization. Later in life, some of them want to be veteran-owned businesses, entrepreneurs. We help them start that out. Many of you know our Veteran Shark Tank, which is national. And then on the other side of things, we have to do employer training, which is very important to bridge the divide. Is not just them hiring a veteran to understand what the veteran can do for their organization and their success. So really teaching them how to fish and where to fish and how to fish and retain them. So the growing one that we're working on is, as we say, veteran friendly, is we are working a lot with companies and their supplier networks, diversity spending for veteran-owned businesses, and all this drives the economic growth of our organization. In addition, the chamber and associations and Rotaries are really important. So we don't talk in the echo chamber just to veterans. They're a big part of our veteran community. Hugo, next slide. Go ahead with the question.
Yeah, okay. What are you, in your mind, what are the biggest challenges veterans face during their job search?
Absolutely. So biggest challenges for veterans, I wrote in here, and many of you are looking at this, is what does this all mean? Well, let me go through them on this, because this is a slide we've used for over 10 years. And for veterans, they really need to understand where their challenge is. So we position this slide for them to understand which one is it that's their challenge. Each one is going to have a different challenge out of the service. So the first one, which I call the circle of trust, means there's a reason veterans don't network. is they don't have a huge trust when they get out of the service. So they have a very small group. So they learn how to network, they're taught how to network, but they still don't have the circle of trust expanded beyond a couple people. They're shaking hands, not firmly, they're not engaging with people they don't know as well. So the circle of trust has to be expanded. So that's one of the challenges we always say is, that's one of the main ones, is to really go out and meet new people, even though you may not know them. My mission is, so basically, you know your mission in the military, you know your assignment in the military. We have the plan of the day in the Navy: wake up, go to chow, go to the firing range, go to the helo, go everywhere. So at the end of the day, what is your mission when you get out? And we focus hard on that area. For us, we teach people how to be an entrepreneur and CEO of their own job search. That is the most important part from square one, than everything else, resume networking. So for all of you out there that are working with veterans and they want a resume and all that, make sure they understand what their mission is. Career objectives, shadowing programs that we do, like Take a Vet to Work. I am. That's the one that's humbled, right? So what'd you do in the military? I did. I am. That's all. So being humble won't get you far. So their challenge is they're being too humble. Personal branding is important in learning that. I'm not an alcoholic. So the reason why we use that phrase is, I don't have a job search problem. It's everybody else's fault. So in reality, we have to challenge veterans to say, are you sure you don't have a job search challenge? And the blame game, instead of going out to the community, is really about them and where they are. We always say, are you finding blanks in battle? Because if not, you need to reload with real weapons and real armor. Look, lack of info. They just don't know anything. They don't have all the information. They're going into the battlefield without tools, without anything else. So lack of info is also a challenge. So not being a Marine, the reason why I use that phrase is you have to be emotionless during the job search. You have to be, it's a high percentage of failure. You have to be okay with non-success during the journey. No callbacks. You're not wanted as an employee. You have to be that Marine. The Marines are the best at job searching because they are mission driven and remove the emotion behind the process. And succeed to fail, that's the big one. You have to be okay to fall on your face, get right back up. The military is a little bit risk adverse. We protect ourselves with walls in the military bases. We give ourselves good evals. So succeed to fail is you got to put yourself out there to failure to learn from it. Next slide, Hugo.
Yeah, Alex, that's a great slide, and I as I was reading through it, I was like, everything applies to veterans as they're searching for a job. So thanks for putting that together. So what are the best attributes of a successful veteran job seeker?
Absolutely. So then we're going to kind of reverse it, but to go back to what you said, that slide is the most important slide we've ever used because they self-select where they are, and you address that. So all those organizations that are out there, make sure they address who they are, what's holding them back. We can't help those that don't want to be helped. So that's important. So the job search structure, I look at it, it's like the foundation of a house. You have mindset, activity, and process. So this is all before going into the job search. What is your mindset? So I'll give you an example. Job fairs, they're a waste of time. Why should I go networking? All this is mindset. So before they're allowed to do resume, they're allowed to go in there. If their mindset is not attuned to I'll do whatever it takes for my job, then they're going to struggle. The majority of the people we worked with that kind of mindset, they've always struggled. So it's not optimism, it's realism. So mindset about, what's the possibilities and what are there? And some people go through challenging times in the military. So the mindset's a little bit hard getting out of the military. And also they hear things. They hear a lot of negativity. Oh, those employers won't hire you. Those things won't hear you, all that stuff. So the next one is activities. So what are you going to do during the day? What are you going to do during the week? So we have a scorecard and an algorithm that scores every veteran on how they do their activities. So if they don't do those activities, then that is not a successful week. So they have to, how many phone calls, how many meetings, how many applications? It's not necessarily about meeting people. And the biggest thing is they'll meet people based on people telling them to meet people. They'll interview for jobs based on other people telling them to interview for jobs, but that's not their own personal activity. So we have to teach them where and using our network. Here are veterans in finance, here are veterans in those areas. And the process, following the process from start to finish, building a house has a foundation from the bottom all the way to the top. So you got to understand, don't skip a step, follow the process, and then you'll job search effectively. Those that do it are successful.
Awesome. And okay, so 2020 obviously is a really weird year with COVID and everything going on. How does a veteran do a job search during this particular time? It's kind of challenging enough already. I would assume COVID makes it even more so.
Yeah, I'm going to use what I say. There's 3 different people right now during COVID, during job seeking. There's the quitter, there's the camper, and then there's the climber. So the veterans need to know who they are. Are they the quitter? I'm overwhelmed. I can't do anything. This is not going to work. I'm emotionally tied into COVID and all this. They're quitting, and that's not good. So that's one area. The camper is, I'm going to wait until we're back in person. I'm going to wait. When things get better, when things do, and that could be a certain percentage of veterans. The climbers are the ones that are adapting. They're overcoming. They're finding any opportunity. They're reaching out. The best thing to do during COVID right now is to ask organizations and to ask people, where are the job opportunities? Where are they located? And how do I get in front of the right people? Because there's still hiring going on. Even though there's layoffs, there's still hiring going on. So networking online, being okay to do that. It's very difficult for the introverts, very difficult. But at the same time, if you're very emotionless like the Marines, you can get the job done. So adapt to the environment, be the climber, don't be the camper or the quitter, because other people are going to get those jobs. So right now it's just adapting this environment, just like our kids are doing, just like older generation is doing. Everybody's got to do their job in adapting, and the job will be there. Just learn that it might be at the house. It might not be the favorite. Just be okay getting out of the military, that your job may be working virtually, right? And those could be great thing for those that are getting out of the military. They don't have to necessarily come back to Philadelphia right away. They could start their work right in. So there's a lot of positive in all this. So don't let this environment dictate your mindset, most importantly. Hope this helps.
Awesome. I love that. I love that quitter, camper, climber. That's a good way to think about that. So appreciate it. Thanks, Alex. And Alex just gave us a whole bunch to think about. So if you have questions, please put your questions into the Q&A box.
Well, one more thing. Sorry, Hugo. One more thing I wanted to add. For anybody that's out there, we have our speed interviewing with live jobs for student veterans on October 28th. I'm going to put it in the chat for everybody, for any student veterans that want to attend.
Awesome. All right. So our second panelist is Michael Costantini, CEO of This Is Opportunity, a professional development and video resume sharing platform. Michael is a Penn State alumnus and sits on the advisory council for the Digital Innovation and Marketing Master's Program at Temple University. Michael is a Bucks County native and currently runs This Is Opportunity in Philadelphia. He is passionate about problem solving and helping people stand out in the job market. So Michael, floor is yours.
Yes, that was really great, Alex. And thank you for the lovely intro, Hugo. I wanted to provide all my contact information here. So if anyone has any questions, wants to connect, please feel free to reach out through email or give me a call on my cell phone. I'll also be sure to put my contact information in the chat when we're done. So as Hugo mentioned, I'm co-founder and CEO of This Is Opportunity. Really excited to speak to you all today. Next slide, Hugo. So it is no secret that there's a very high unemployment rate right now. If you're a job seeker, you're certainly not alone. It has rebounded since the start of COVID, fortunately. We are starting to see some jobs to come back. But it's very important to acknowledge the fact that there is a high demand right now for jobs and unfortunately a lower supply. So that does create a very competitive job market. And for this last point, with this new climate, it's also important to acknowledge the fact that there is a new format for interviewing. So if you are currently a job seeker, things have changed a little bit to what we are used to. And this is really where This Is Opportunity comes in. We're really addressing this new climate and helping people adjust and be successful. Next slide. So how do we help job seekers stand out in the job market and be successful in their interviews? We do that in three main ways. First of all is with our website. Very similarly to LinkedIn, each one of our users can create a profile that features characteristics about themselves, your work experience, volunteer experience, if you've served in the military. And then our profiles also allow you to upload a video of yourself. So each one of our profiles is shareable. You don't have to be a member of our website in order to view someone's public profile. So you can use the link to your profile on job applications, on your resume to complement all of your experience. And you can also include it on your LinkedIn profile as well. This video essentially allows you to give a greater perspective on yourself for employers, for your community. It allows you to showcase your soft skills, your professional values beyond that traditional resume. So even beyond our platform and our website, we also host Zoom mock interviews. So over the course of a 30-minute remote mock interview, we will record the interview and then we will take that footage and turn it into a video resume. So this is really the perfect opportunity to get comfortable and confident with this new format of interviewing, being that the majority of interviews right now are being hosted via video conferencing platforms like Zoom, WebEx, Skype, or with video interviewing technology like HireVue or SparkHire. It's really important that you're practicing essentially how you approach a virtual interview or how you're presenting yourself in this new format. So that's what we're really excited to be doing right now. We've been doing it for a long time, and coincidentally with COVID, that's really the only way that employers are interviewing right now. I'm sure for most of you, if you've had any interviews within the last 4 or 5 months, this is something you're probably familiar with at this point. And then beyond that, we also do traditional resume consultations. So we work with career coaches so that you can build those assets when you're going into the job market. You can have that updated and enhanced resume. You can have that video resume. And then also we help you build a network. So just like LinkedIn, you can connect with people internally on our platform, but even more so, you can build a larger network by sharing that video that we help you create. So it can be used on your LinkedIn, your Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. And as I mentioned, it essentially just allows employers and your community to have a better understanding of your professional values, what you can offer within the job market beyond your resume. And to the left, you can see an example of what one of our profiles can look like. But yeah, Hugo, some questions?
Yeah. So how much does it cost to join your website?
So it is absolutely free to join TO. You can sign up, create that profile at no cost. If you want to take it upon yourself to create your video, you can upload it for free as well. Essentially, you can just utilize our services if you want to improve upon your video, if you want help essentially improving your resume. But it is free essentially to get involved, to have that video resume asset that you can share with employers. And then it just comes at a small cost if you want our help with the mock interviewing or creating your video.
Okay, cool. And what kind of companies, who does your organization work with?
So mainly we work with nonprofits to help complement their programming for workforce development. But predominantly, we just work with any individuals who are motivated and want to stand out in the job market. So like Alex mentioned, we work with the climbers, the individuals who aren't necessarily camping right now, but who are actively seeking employment and who want kind of a leg up on that competition.
Cool. And how does someone sign up for the video resume support?
So in order to engage us for any of our services, you can sign up for free on our website and fill out a form. You can also feel free to reach out to me directly. I'll post my email and contact information in the chat. And I think it's really important to acknowledge the fact that even if you don't want to necessarily take advantage of our services, you do want to be practicing virtual interviewing right now. You never want to go to your first virtual interview and have no experience with Zoom or the video conferencing technology that your employer intends on using. Even beyond that, we're more than happy to provide some help as far as creating your video, some tips and techniques on how to virtual interview. So I would really love to connect with anyone who's kind of actively job seeking right now and who could use a little assistance in that virtual interview.
Yeah, I would re-emphasize that point, Michael, about practicing, because I will tell you, one of the things I've learned with this webinar stuff is running an in-person meeting is infinitely easier than running a webinar, because you have a whole support network for the webinar. And does that same parallel kind of apply to video resumes and video interviews?
100%. So a normal interview can be stressful enough, but now with this new format, there are many more factors that you have to account for. You need to, one, know that your technology can handle the software that you'll be using. Tech always finds new ways to kind of complicate things. And then even beyond that, you want to have that self-awareness of knowing what your background looks like, knowing how your posture looks, how you're speaking, if your microphone and camera are working properly. Even beyond that, we're hosting most of these interviews from our households. So you want to make sure that your family's aware of sort of how to move around, and how to be aware of your time for that interview as well.
Yeah. And one final question is video, I mean, obviously Zoom interviews are much more common now. I mean, you just said it's the primary way of interviewing happening. Video resumes, is that also on the rise because of just technology, and then B, because of COVID?
Yeah, absolutely. So video resumes have actually been around for about a decade. But now that everyone has more access to the technology required to create that video resume and to view it as well, they've become much more popular, and it just helps employers expedite the interviewing process, essentially. So it's very common now, even beyond just Zoom interviews. Companies are actually requesting that individuals send a YouTube link of themselves with a short video. So that's really encouraging for us, knowing that we're doing something right here. But we are professionals in the space. So as that gains more popularity, especially during these times, we'd really love to help out.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I mean, this is informative. Even I mean, I thought I was kind of on top of things, just being in the veteran space, but I'm learning a lot. So thank you, Michael. And
Yeah,
just as a
absolutely.
reminder, everybody, if you have a question, please use the Q&A box. You can access it at the bottom of your screen. We've already had at least one question that we answered, so it's real time. And if it's a question for the panelists, we'll take that at the end. Okay, so our third panelist is Tiffany Miller. Tiffany Miller is a vocational rehabilitation counselor for PAVE, or the Paralyzed Veterans of America Employment Program. Tiffany graduated from Penn State, another Penn State, huh? With a Bachelor of Science in Rehabilitation and Human Services and a Master of Education in Counselor Education, focusing on both rehabilitation and mental health counseling. After earning her master's degree, Tiffany continued her education to become a Certified Rehabilitation Counselor, or CRC. Tiffany is based in the greater Philadelphia area, but provides employment support to veterans and military-connected individuals in the Northeast of the United States, ranging from Delaware all the way up to Maine. So Tiffany, thanks for coming. The floor is yours.
Thank you. All right. So yeah, I think kind of like we said, I work for PAVE. PAVE stands for Paving Access for Veteran Employment, and it's the employment program under Paralyzed Veterans of America. And then just included all my information there for you if you need to reach out. So PAVE, like I said, it's our employment program, and we focus on helping veterans, transitioning service members, their families and caregivers, with a focus on helping those with barriers to employment. So obviously Paralyzed Veterans of America, our overall, our population is people with a spinal cord injury or disease. And so we definitely are really focusing on people who have some significant barriers to employment. And what we do is we try to offer a high touch and one-on-one support to help those individuals find employment, education, and volunteer opportunities. And I mean, I know this is the out of the box employment strategies, but we do also offer those traditional services as well. So going over the resume, mock interviews on the phone or Zoom or in person when that's available, job search, all of the traditional things as well. But we did come up with a new program this year before COVID to provide some more virtual services. I want to go to the next slide. And before we get to that, actually, so we have a team all across the country here, and wherever you see a red dot is where we have one of our vocational rehabilitation counselors. And then the blue dots have our employment analysts, and they tend to work with people who are a little bit more job ready or transitioning members. And then our headquarters is based in Washington, DC. The next slide. All right, and so I just kind of went over this already, but said that we have a new program that we provide. Like I said, we actually launched this in January before everything started going virtual, but we knew it was something that we wanted to do and was needed. Like I said, our members are people with spinal cord injuries and illnesses. And so those people, we found when they're trying to find a job, that career fairs weren't really accessible. Either they have a hard time getting there, parking, and also just trying to get around a career fair. They're very crowded, they're cramped spaces. So we're trying to provide something similar for people so that they can still access those kinds of connections, but from their home. And so we launched PAVE Connect. And like it says here, it's the employment support when and where it matters. So the big thing about that is that you can access this information on your schedule and from any device. And so as long as there's time on your calendar and you have access to the internet, you're able to join our sessions each week. And our sessions cover a lot of different things. We have training sessions where we talk about, again, the typical things: resumes, interviews, cover letters, how to pitch yourself to an employer. And we also talk about some more specific things for people with disabilities: how to request an accommodation, what are the accommodations. We also talk about going back to school, how to choose a major, how to succeed while you're at school, as well as covering volunteer opportunities, which is something I think is really cool about PAVE, is that we're not necessarily focused on finding paid employment if someone isn't in that place yet or that's not what they want. We also help with going back to school, getting a degree, getting a certificate, or volunteering. The big focus for us is we don't want people isolating and staying home and doing nothing. We'd rather get you out there and find something for you to do and work your way up to what you really want to be doing. And then lastly with that, like I said, we offer trainings, all kinds of different training programs, but we also have employers that join these sessions. And each month we've been having a different employer come and talk to whoever signs up for it. And you learn about what is the application process like? How many steps do they go through? Is it a recruiter and then a hiring manager, and learning like what's it going to take to get through and get a job with their company? And what I think is really awesome is where you have recruiters and talent acquisition and presenting about their companies, and you get to actually ask them directly all of your questions. We had Amazon recently, and someone was asking, well, how do I get into Amazon, beyond the driving? What else can I do? And they really talked to them and figured out, what kind of degree do you need? Where do you need to apply and where to start so that you can work your way up in the company and not just have those delivery positions. But they're very interactive, small groups. So you really get to ask those personalized questions to employers. And I believe that's everything on there.
Awesome. So one of the questions that obviously pops into mind is, who is eligible to receive support from PAVE Connect?
So this is something also that I really love about PAVE and the program, is that there aren't too many eligibility requirements. Right now with COVID, we do have a lot of people who are trying to find a new job or out of work. And so we are getting a lot of referrals and limiting it to anyone who's military connected. But that is pretty much it. To be a veteran, transitioning service member, active duty, to be like a spouse, ex-spouse, any kind of military connection. We work with anyone in the family. We have some children of veterans as well. And the really cool thing is that you don't have to have any real requirements to join. I mean, for PAVE Connect, anybody can really log on and join those for our one-on-one with our counselors. Yeah, you don't have to have a specific disability rating. You don't have to have a disability at all. And then it doesn't matter about your discharge status either. We have people who are honorable, not honorable. Like that doesn't really matter to us. We just want to get you a job. So pretty much anybody, if you have some kind of military connection.
That's awesome. That other than honorable or dishonorable, that discharge status, that's pretty significant because a lot of organizations don't do that. So thanks for doing that.
Mm-hmm.
If there isn't a PAVE counselor or employment analyst located in your city, you showed the map, how does that work?
So anybody can pretty much access our services. That's just where we're physically located. So like it was mentioned in my bio, I'm in Philadelphia, but I'm covering the whole Northeast. And that's the case for everybody. Our employment analysts, I think, have a broader scope because they're working with people who are employment ready. And so they'll cover anyone, anywhere, but we do have people in Puerto Rico as well. And then if you're serving overseas, as long as you're able to figure out a time to call with us, we'll figure it out and work with you as well.
Awesome. And then technically, where does somebody go for PAVE Connect services? I mean, I assume online. How does all that work? How does that process work?
Yeah, so if you're viewing this today and you or someone you know is interested, you can reach out to me directly and we can get things started. But our website, which I included in the chat, has a feature where you can just refer yourself as well. And then my supervisor will send that out and assign as appropriate. So if it's somebody in, say, Ohio, I know that's my coworker, Jim, it would get sent to him if he's able to take that on.
Cool. And is Ohio covered by the Minneapolis person?
Yes.
Right. Cool.
Yeah, I believe so, but we help each other out.
Cool. Awesome. So again, if anybody has any questions for Tiffany, please put them in the Q&A. So thank you, Tiffany. I appreciate it. We'll come back to you with general questions. All right. So our fourth speaker is Eric Stetson. Eric W. Stetson is a regional director for 4Block, a veteran service organization with the mission of equipping high potential veterans to achieve the best careers at our nation's top companies. He is a retired Army Lieutenant Colonel and a native of Haverford, Pennsylvania. Graduated from Lafayette College and served on active duty in the Army from June 1991 until September 2015. His final military assignment was the Professor of Military Science, University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign. Eric attended the University of Louisville. Is it Louisville or Louisville? I'm going to say Louisville. Earning a master's degree in human resources education. He is also an officer for the Philly area chapter of AUSA, Association of the United States Army, and a member of the Delaware Valley Veterans Consortium. Eric is married to Nina Stetson, an Army veteran spouse, licensed clinical social worker, early childhood development expert, and they have one daughter, Catherine, an Army brat who is a senior in high school. I'm sure it's a challenging time right now. Good stuff. So, Eric, floor is yours. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, good. Just want to make sure the sound's working. Hugo and the DVVC team, thank you so much. It's an honor to share with everybody today. One of the things I love about
Oh boy. I've got Eric freezing right now. Okay, what I'm going to do is move on to Lynn. Are you available right now?
I sure am.
Great. I'll text Eric and make sure he can get back on. But Lynn, I'm gonna introduce you. So you're the executive director of the Philadelphia Area Great Careers Group, a DVVC member organization that provides career education and networking for career transition and career management. So Lynn, the floor is yours. Thanks for being flexible.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you so much. Happy to be here. And I'm also very happy to work consistently with the DVVC Marketing Committee. So let me tell you a little bit about the Philadelphia Area Great Careers Group. We were founded in April of 2010 by two guys, who decided they did not want to take over or continue the organization. So I took it over in August of 2015 with 1,722 members. I turned it into a 501c3 charitable nonprofit in 2017, and we now have grown up to over 6,700 members. So grown by leaps and bounds. I guess we're doing something right. So what we do is we provide career education and networking. We provide resources and support in various ways. So why don't you go to the next slide? All right, this particular slide, and I'm going to put the link in the chat with a whole bunch of live links. So my deck is actually a Google slide deck, and each one of these things, articles or PowerPoints, well, Google slide decks, are linked on here for further learning. So you're going to get so much more information just by going through each one of these links. Go ahead, next slide. All right, so here is my contact information. I actually wear two hats. So the one hat that I wear is I write resumes and LinkedIn profiles. That's how I eat and put a roof over my head. And then I volunteer at the Philadelphia Area Great Careers Group as the executive director. So those are the two email addresses for me. There's my LinkedIn URL, and you can book a call with me. I have various speaking topics, and we have lots of social media links. So as I said, I'm going to put this live deck in link in the chat. So if you want to just take me off of the PowerPoint now, then I'll just share some more information.
And Lynn, I messed up. I didn't read your entire introduction, so let me finish that.
Oh, well, here, go ahead and read my introduction.
So you're also the, I think you said this, but the Around the Clock, you're the owner of Around the Clock Executive Helper, a writer of resumes and LinkedIn profiles. Lynn presents unique research-based workshops on LinkedIn, and I will tell you, Lynn schooled us on LinkedIn while we were doing rehearsals for this. Resumes, the applicant tracking system, the art of networking in person and online, and other career-related social media and technology topics. She is currently working on her doctoral dissertation and is a contributing editor to Find Your Fit, a practical guide to landing the job you love, along with the late Dick Bowles, the author of What Color's Your Parachute? I think we're all familiar with that book. In addition, she writes a weekly career column in Vista Today, Montco Today, and Delco Today, and other publications with LinkedIn tips and more. So I think, I apologize, Lynn, for not reading that initially. So I think we can go into questions for you. Awesome.
All right.
All right, so
Excellent.
What do you do about networking if you don't have time or are an introvert? How do you tackle that?
This is very simple. If you don't have time to network, you have to make time. You have to make networking a habit. There's just nothing else you can do or say. You just have to make networking a habit. Now, if you are an introvert, you know, maybe it's a little bit different going online than it is in person. You know, if you're going to an event in person by chance, then find a wingman or a wingwoman to go along with you. You know, tell them that you're an introvert. But if you are going online, it might be a little easier because you can either choose to participate or not, and until you sort of get comfortable. So I wanted to tell you that there is an event on November 9th at the Free Library of Philadelphia, who we partner with, and I have a session on introverts and networking. So I'll put that in the chat. I just tried to put my whole thing in the chat and it was too long, so I have to break it up into a couple chunks. So I'll do that after I stop speaking here. Also, you know, if you want to come to one of our chapters, it's a Spring City chapter. We have 22 chapters online, but our Spring City chapter is run by a Marine. So if you feel, you know, you want to start off and feel comfortable hanging out with another veteran, you know, he's been there, done that, and he's been volunteering for us for the past couple years. So sometimes getting across your fears is to confront them head on. So one thing you can do is maybe become a chapter leader and have people come to you. And that way you will start building your network very quickly when you run a program. Now, I don't know if you know this, but on LinkedIn, you have to have a job to get a job for the most part because of the way the algorithm works. So if you volunteer for an organization or a 501c3 nonprofit, instead of just putting it in the volunteer section of your LinkedIn profile, you will want to put it in the work experience section of your profile. So if you go to my LinkedIn page and you click on the Philadelphia Area Great Careers Group logo, you'll see we have X number of employees on our company page. Nobody's an employee. Those are all volunteers. What they're doing is they're using our organization and they're volunteering their services on doing various tasks or chapter leader or board member in order to have that gap filled on their LinkedIn profile. So let's see, what else can I tell you?
Well, I was trying to, when you said a networking event for introverts, I was trying, there's got to be a joke there, but I just couldn't think of it fast enough.
No, it's talk. She talks about getting a job as an introvert also. So it definitely has appeal to, you know, the workforce and being an introvert. Her name is Jane Finkel, and she is an author also. She's spoken for us many times, and I really enjoy this presentation, and it's free. So we have a lot of stuff that is free, like basic services for job seekers. And we have other stuff that is a whole year's membership is cheaper than a really nice steak dinner. So, and you get a whole bunch of career programming, like you go to the movies. Yeah, and yeah, absolutely. So if you go to the movies, you know, you have to pay. If you go to McDonald's or Burger King, you can't get a free burger, right? Or Starbucks, they don't give you free coffee. So we are supported by members for a very, very tiny little fee in order to survive as a nonprofit. So
you mentioned when I read the second part of your introduction, you talked about the applicant tracking system, and I think a lot of people think that's a black hole. Can you talk about your resume going into that black hole when you
absolutely. So I think the next time that I am doing a presentation on the applicant tracking system, actually I just booked it last night, so it's not even on our list of events yet, but it's going to be Thursday, November 19th. So when I wrote the chapter in the book with Dick Bowles, the author of What Color's Your Parachute, I wrote it with 15 other career coaches from around the country. So what I do is give best tips, practices, and strategies on how you can get your resume through the black hole. So the applicant tracking system, there's over 200 of them that exist. And what you need to do is best practices in getting your resume sort of deconstructed with no formatting and whatnot, so that it reads by the bots. Now, here's the thing. If you think about it, each job description is a database of information. It has keywords in it. So you have to be able to take your base resume and go file save as ABC company 10/16/20, file save as XYZ company 10/17/20, and then you customize that resume with the keywords that match the words in the job description, so that it gets read by the bots. So there's something called contextualization. And contextualization is when you put your resume up through the parser of the applicant tracking system and you get a mathematical score. So the mathematical score will say, how well do you match to this particular position? And so contextualization is not just reading the keywords, but the words before it and the words after it.
Right, got it. Yeah, and what pops into my mind as you were talking about that is you got to be in climber mode to do all those customized resumes for that particular job description. You can't be in quitter or camper mode, to use Alex's construct.
There you go.
Okay, so keywords in LinkedIn. I mean, you talk about keywords within resumes, but can you talk about keywords in LinkedIn?
Sure. So LinkedIn is its own database, and you cannot just pull things out of your head and decide that that's how you want to describe yourself. You have to actually do the work on the LinkedIn database and look things up. So what do I mean by that? Let's say you're in finance and you look up budget, budgets, and budgeting. And in the job description, it says budgeting, but maybe in your skills and endorsements section, you put budgets. Well, how do you know that that's the best word of and various iteration or version of that word unless you look it up? So you want to get found. So you want to use the words that are most used in LinkedIn's database, but also if you have certain expertise in a certain area, then you want to go with those niche words. So it's kind of like an art and a science and a balance between those words. And you have to be able to say, gee, I only have one LinkedIn profile, so I've got to choose the best set of words there, but I have a base resume and I'm going to actually customize each resume and do a text word analysis for each resume. So in case you're not aware, with the Philadelphia Area Great Careers Group, we have different models of meetings that might help you. And we are not just a veterans organization, we support veterans. So if you are a veteran that wants to come and network, to work in the corporate world, then you want to come and work with other veterans and corporate-minded people that are doing the same thing and they're job seekers. So it's all about networking. So we have daytime, we have evening time meetings. Now, if you go to something called a career success group, it's all about the accountability. And you have to, as Alex said, you know, you have to give yourself points for attending certain things. You have to be accountable in your job search. You are your CEO of your own job search. You have to make it happen. That is your mission. And then that is a networking and accountability meeting. We also have the speaker meetings where it's career education. So you're going to learn about the current trends and resumes and networking and different topics. And then we have workshops. So for example, Saturday, October 17th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m., I will be teaching LinkedIn at the Chester County Library in Exton, as I have for the past 7 years. Absolutely free to attend these 9 hours worth of LinkedIn trainings. So I do live demos and it's all on Zoom. We run over 600 events a year online, and we used to run about 1,000 events a year in person, believe it or not. But now we're online, and we've grown to, we're in 5 states now. So we welcome you to come and join us.
Great. Thank you. And I think our timing is just about right. So Eric, are you back on? And Katie, can we get Eric's slides back up?
All right, I think I'm back on.
All right. Cool. Thanks, Eric.
Yeah. All right, we'll try this again. By the way, Lynn Williams really knows her stuff with LinkedIn, and the great Careers Group Philadelphia is fantastic. So I recommend that and share that with all the veterans that I work with. And I've learned a few things about LinkedIn from Lynn for sure. So great to see her today. Overall program, kind of knowing who you are and having the right mindset and approaching your career as the CEO of your own job search, of your own career building operation. It's all about relationships. So relationships are key for networking and building your network, to discover opportunities, to learn and to grow. And so that's the premise of the 4-block program is really helping veterans develop critical skills. Some have been talked about today already, and building relationships and building a network. Our programs are free for veterans. We have a couple different programs. I'm going to talk a lot about the Career Readiness Program today, but you see our bottom line mission up front there to inspire transitioning veterans to reach their potential and equip them to achieve the best careers possible. So the career skills is very important, and the networking is very important. If you could hit the next slide. All right, so here are the programs we have going on currently. We have a 4-block podcast. We have some amazing speakers that come on this podcast, retired senior leaders in the military, experts that come on and share with Mike Abrams and another co-host that we have does an amazing job. So if you get a chance to check out the podcast, please do. You can find it on Spotify, etc. Find Your Calling is a massive online open course. Anybody anywhere in the world can take Find Your Calling. And we have authors like Simon Sinek and Sebastian who are on that program speaking about figuring out what your mission is, what your purpose is, and figuring out your calling in the civilian world after the service. That's a fantastic career course. It's about 8 hours long, self-paced. So it's called Find Your Calling. And then new this year, we have a pilot program for spouses of veterans. Most of us know that, you know, our spouses really get jerked around by our military careers, and it's very hard for them to maintain their own careers. So we've got a pilot program going on this fall. We have about 28 spouses in it right now. And so we're really excited about that, and you're going to hear more about that in the future. Our mainstay program is the Career Readiness Program for post 9/11 veterans. Next slide. All right, so how do we do the Career Readiness Program? Depending upon the geography or the region where you are in the United States, because we are a national program, we run 8 to 12 weeks. And here in Philadelphia, it's an 11-week program. We start with a personal assessment, helping you to understand who you are, what you're about, what drives you, what some of your underlying psychology. We talk about introvert, extrovert, and much of this goes back to the book that Lynn was referencing, What Color is Your Parachute? If you think about, you know, a Myers-Briggs or a DISC survey, 16 personalities, that kind of process, we start all of our veterans with. We think it's very important to understand who you are up front while you're getting into that mindset of the career search. We have a lot of online curriculum through our online platform. 4-Block Connect is our new website that all of our alumni and our students and our coaches and our instructors are sharing and collaborating on. So we're using articles from Harvard Business Review and other HR experts and industry experts about the different subject matter. I'll show you in a bit. We have weekly face-to-face meetings. Now, when we're not in COVID, we are gathering our cohorts of veterans together and taking them each week to a different company. Fortune 500, Fortune 100 companies, to meet veterans and non-veterans at those companies, see the building space and get a feel for the culture there, learning and networking from those veterans. There are deliverables for the program. We want to make sure that every veteran graduates the program being able to demonstrate skills and have deliverables such as an effective LinkedIn profile, the ability to develop a targeted resume, as briefly discussed before. A lot of veteran-to-veteran networking. It does take time and commitment for veterans to go through this program. And then every veteran has a primary instructor and also has a course career coach. So in Philadelphia, for example, our primary instructor is Lania Terry, the Director of Talent Acquisition at Day & Zimmerman, who's also a member of SHRM, an officer in the SHRM board in Philadelphia. And then we have career coaches. There probably are a couple on this call. These are usually veterans who have been successful in the civilian world who volunteer to coach veterans while they're in this program. We're very big on surveys and evaluation. So our corporate partners and our students are surveyed every week for their feedback on the program, so we can see ourselves, see where we need to go and how we need to adjust to go forward. And then I already talked about the podcast. Next slide. So the core curriculum, we basically have 10 modules, and this is what is really the, the guts of the curriculum for the program, the skills that we think are essential for veterans to understand and be able to utilize in their career. And you see that's a picture of us there on the right. We're at Comcast in this particular event with a group of veterans and their employees. So developing the right relationships and networking, huge, 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 which relates directly to LinkedIn, which relates directly to, can you tell your story? Do you know what your story is? And have you thought about that strategically? Because that's a very important question in every interview. So you see we have different skills. A different skill is the focus each week. And by the end of the program, our veterans become very confident in the ability to brand themselves, market themselves, speak to who they are, their value proposition, and they've developed a network and a refined focus for network companies to discover those opportunities. Next slide. So this is the overall impact. By the end of early December, we'll have close to 3,000 graduates that have gone through the 4-block program, the Career Readiness program. We have over 12,000 podcast followers in 4-block world right now. We've had hundreds and hundreds of veterans go through the massive online open course, Find Your Calling, and we've counseled many more veterans that were not able to finish the program for one reason or another. If a veteran can't finish the program, then they're welcome to come back the next semester and do it again, as long as they're in good standing. One thing we're very proud about is, because of the personal assessment up front and the time we spend on really understanding yourself and figuring out the right career for you to have satisfaction and success, which does not necessarily equate to money. We have an 83% retention rate nationally for our veterans at their first job past 12 months, which is about 25 points above the national average. And that's because we invest a lot of time in trying to help veterans find the right calling and the right fit at the right company. And so it's something we're very proud about. And then if you can go ahead and drop the slides, Hugo. One thing I didn't talk about is who is this program for? So veterans could be on active duty, they could be a guardsman, they could be a reservist. About 65% of the veterans come through the program are former enlisted who are pursuing a college degree or their second degree, an MBA or whatever. We worked with Drexel and UPenn and Temple and Rutgers here in Philadelphia, and many other schools across the nation. So it's a great team. We have a lot of fun. We're really privileged to do what we get to do in helping other veterans figure out the right career path and move forward with the right skills to get there.
Awesome, thanks. And I will tell everybody that 4-block also is a national organization. So Eric's kind of the Northeast region person. But 4-blocks all over the place. So a couple questions, Eric. We've already talked about COVID. What is 4-block's opinion about how vets should tackle the job search or start a career in 2020, this year during COVID?
Yeah, it's great. And I had this conversation the other day with our instructor in New York City, a gentleman named Tom Dickman, who was a Vietnam veteran, and he was a CB in the Navy. And he came out and he talked to his dad as soon as he got out of the service. And, he told us he couldn't even put military stuff on his resume for 10 years, right? Because Vietnam vets were treated horribly. And Tom said, he talked to his dad, and his dad said, hey, well, let me introduce you to a guy and you could talk to him and maybe, maybe there's something there for you. And so Tom went and met this gentleman, and that gentleman set him up with an interview with another guy. And Tom went and did the interview, knocked it out of the park, walked out of the office with a job. That was the last job Tom interviewed for. He had 5 subsequent jobs over his career, and he became the founder for AECOM, the world's largest engineer design firm. So his point was to the veterans today, you have more tools at your fingertips than anyone has ever had before in the history of humankind for making connections with people and building your network. We literally had the yellow pages and our personal leather carriers on the bottom of our feet to get after it before. So really, for veterans today, you've got Indeed and Glassdoor and LinkedIn and Facebook. You have all these forums. And let's face it, you still can meet face-to-face outside, socially distanced, with people in different locations. So the message to veterans is do not slow down. Don't be a quitter. Don't be a camper, like Alex said. Get after it. Attack it full time. Build your network. Build relationships. Ask how you can help other people at the same time. And it becomes a lot of fun and really empowering and rewarding.
Awesome. And telling their story, veterans have you. extremely unique stories to tell. Why and how is it so important that veterans can talk about themselves and tell their stories?
Until you can effectively tell your story, you're not really ready for networking. Because when you talk to people, you want to be able to tell people your story in a strategic manner that they take away who you are, what you're about, what you care about, what you bring to the fight, okay, so to speak, what you bring to the table. And so telling your story is an important strategic operation, if you will. And in every interview anybody ever goes to, they're going to say, hey, tell me about yourself. Tell me your story. Give me your background. It's all the same question. And you have to be able to answer that question intelligently. Plus, as Lynn will tell you, in the about paragraph on LinkedIn, your story has to match your about paragraph on LinkedIn. As she likes to say, I'm going to quote Lynn, matchy, matchy, matchy. It's got to match from your resume to your LinkedIn to when you tell your story in a network in public. And if it doesn't match up, then people are going to say, hey, something's not authentic here. So really thinking about and learning how to tell your story is a very important skill. You want to be able to tell your story in about 2 to 3 minutes. If people interrupt you during your story, you just come back to where you left off and you keep going. And you have to have sub-stories to demonstrate things you talk about in your primary story. And for veterans, you have a very unique opportunity because of your unique experiences in the service and how that can relate to what you bring to the table afterwards. So really, really important subject.
Cool. So I'm going to open this up to questions for the entire panel. Thank you very much, Eric. And you'll be included in some of these questions that pop up. So again, if you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A. I will tell you, I have one that pops into my mind, and Alex, you mentioned this on one of your slides, and this is for everybody, but we'll start with you, Alex. Part of what you do is educating employers. What's that like? How receptive are they? And are there quitters, campers, and climbers kind of in the employment world when it comes to hiring veterans? Just Alex, if you can lead off that discussion, and then we'll go to each of the panels.
That's a very great question. So we get the question all the time. So we always tell people to look at our tagline, which is our tools, your mission. So we don't tell the employers what their mission is. That's the past of how veterans communicated. You should, this is reasons why. If an employer steps forward and wants to do something, we will help them. We have never sold it to an employer. Because that makes it our mission. It never works. So in the same side of veterans, we do it with employers. If they're leaning forward, but they don't understand or they're muddled, then we help them. So we've had employers like Wawa, Comcast, Vanguard, Enterprise. They've been engaged with us for 8 years to learn, and we segment it by student veterans, how to hire student veterans, how to hire wounded warriors, how to hire senior leaders, how to hire National Guard and reservists. So we segment the learning, and they all keep attending, which means that it's the depth of their knowledge and how to. So it's a high touch model, getting on campus, how to get on campus, how to get to the bases, how to get. So since we're local, and we tell people we won't follow up with them. We will give them what's available for them. And then if they attend, they do, then we continue the engagement as well. So we treat them like the military. We treat them like the military, and we treat them like family. In the beginning, people couldn't understand that, but just because we have a designation as a nonprofit doesn't mean that we can't communicate it. It's economic success. So we have to communicate in a way of march on with us.
Awesome. Michael, so do you have to do education of employers, and what's that like from your perspective?
Yeah, absolutely. As I mentioned, I mean, as more popularity starts building for video resumes, I think it's as a result of employers just reaching for more context for their candidates. And they're starting to figure out new ways to get that context, I guess. Originally, they would do the Googling for candidates and find your social media profiles, but candidates don't always necessarily create those with the intent of employment. So you want to make sure that you are representing yourself as best as possible with that digital footprint. So for us, we do put work in to have that SEO so that one of your profiles on our platform is the first representation that you see. If it's not LinkedIn, it will be TO as opposed to your Instagram or Facebook or Twitter, which can sometimes have a negative effect if you're not always keeping that potential employment in mind, or the
Right.
fact that employers are actively looking for more context.
Gotcha. Tiffany, in your world with veterans with disabilities, and specifically because you work with Paralyzed Veterans of America, is there any specific education that you need to do with employers?
Just thinking about, I mean, we do a lot of education on like accommodations for people and how, they're usually not that expensive and it's going to help them do their job better. But also I think something I see is that someone might have the necessary like experience in a job. If it says you need 10 years of experience and they look at their resume and say, well, they only have 5 or 6, but they're not looking at, they were doing that job in the military as well. And so they do have that experience. So just including that as their experience, as you were doing public relations in the military, you left and you continued in that field, that's still experience in that field. So when we talk back and forth with the recruiters, pointing that out, that they do have that experience, you're just not looking in that section and considering that.
Gotcha. Eric, from your, I mean, I know you work, well, all of you work directly with companies, but what's your experience been with educating employers? What have your observations been?
Yeah, so the model that we operate under causes employers to really get a really good look at veterans and understand that they have, importantly, some soft skills that they bring to the table. And so just by the way we operate, we have veterans kind of have these, we have companies and representatives from organizations have these aha moments like, wow, these people are really impressive. And so that's a great kind of, side benefit. On another aspect of it, in every semester I have an employer come up to me and say, Eric, what you're teaching these veterans is amazing. I wish I had this, can I go through this course? And I say, well, if you're a veteran, you can, but so it's interesting how the career skills we're building are they apply across the board. And 4Block, we just shape it very specifically for veterans.
Gotcha. And Lynn, same question. I mean, obviously we're focused on helping veterans and job seekers, but what have you found education of employers to be? What work do you have to do there? What have you observed?
We actually have some employers and recruiters come and participate in our meetings because that way they can meet a whole bunch of people in a very short period of time and listen to their elevator pitches. So aside from providing career education, we provide a platform where everybody gets a chance to introduce themselves. We had started to plan a program with employers, and then COVID hit. So we have to tweak things now going forward. I am working on my doctoral dissertation, and I will be done within a year, hopefully. So I will have more time in about a year from now to tap into some other plans and programs that we had hoped to do. As of all volunteer organization, we have limited bandwidth. So if anybody wants to come join us and help us tap into more employers, we would love that.
Awesome. So Michael, you mentioned something earlier just now about social media, and Travis Manion Foundation, we used to have a transition program, and we talked a lot about, make sure you have your best foot forward in the social media world. And I think that seems obvious, right? You don't want people checking out your Facebook where you're all lying out drunk. What is, for all of you, and we'll start with Michael, what do you see as the balance between standard resume, written resume on a piece of paper, as opposed to the video resume that you talk about, Michael, or social media or LinkedIn? I'd like to get each of your perspectives on how you see that balance. So Michael, can you start?
Yeah, that's a great question. Being that each one of those components is publicly accessible, it's very important that you're accounting for all of them and that you're aware that they are all representing you in some way in the job market. You can't necessarily lean on any one of them, considering that an employer could very much be viewing all of them and essentially judging you for it, or in their mind perceiving their value of you based on your LinkedIn profile, based on your TO profile and your video resume, or that applicant tracking system might be kind of flagging you as a potential candidate amongst a lot of others. So when they do need additional context, just being aware of the fact that they will go to your LinkedIn or they will do a Google search of you and essentially click on the first link that is the result at the top of the page, whether that be LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. It's very important to kind of adjust all of your settings, make everything private. If you do have personal intentions with these social media profiles, or you just want to have kind of that professional representation of yourself at the forefront. So I know Lynn is a professional as far as helping you stand out with LinkedIn, but also having that video in the forefront essentially limits the other context that employers will try to gain for you.
Gotcha. And Lynn, I'll go to you next. And let me add the additional question of, what if you aren't super social active on social media? Is that a detriment? So, I mean, for instance, my job, if I go to LinkedIn and can't find somebody, to me, that's like, why is that? So can you talk about too much presence in a negative sense or not enough presence?
Okay, bottom line is you have to be on LinkedIn. You know, that's the bare minimum. If you don't want to be on Facebook or Instagram or anything else, you know, that's fine. But at least, you know, if you're trying to build your career, you must be on LinkedIn. And to kind of follow up and tag on to what Michael said, the employers absolutely positively do look at what people are doing on social media. So I write for Vista.today, Monco.today, and Delco.today, and in fact, you'll see that I publicize this event in the article today and DVVC. And, you know, there's another article that I wrote last week for Vista.today about don't commit LinkedIn suicide by making political posts on LinkedIn. You do not want to do that. Keep all your social media vanilla, okay? Just don't take sides on things. Don't go to controversial topics. Be professional in everything that you do on social media.
Well, and I would say that's probably a good recommendation, period, across the board for one's social life. So we got a few minutes left. So Eric, can you answer that question?
Yeah, I would just echo, and I'm going to quote Lynn again: matchy, matchy, matchy. If you're on Facebook and you're LinkedIn and you got a resume and you talk to a person in person, it all better match up, because I want to know who you are authentically. When a company is hiring an individual, they are investing anywhere from $50,000 to $200,000 to find, hire, onboard, train that person. So when they have to lose a person in 4 to 6 months, they just lost a crap load of money. So they're going to look at you very, very hard every way they can to see who you are and what you're about. And I think she's absolutely right. You've got to be on LinkedIn, and you want to keep it professional, and you want to resist all the stuff that's out there.
Alex, you raised your hand. Go ahead.
Yeah, I couldn't find the button like I normally do, so I'm like you're behind on Zoom, right? So to echo what everybody said, the personal brand is behind this. So what that means is show your depth of knowledge of business, show your depth of industry, share articles, share knowledge, because what job candidates don't realize, and the veterans sit in the echo chamber, is they don't realize they're competing. So competing for the job is the first thing they need to know when they get out of the gate for the horse race. So they really need to know they're not just looking for a job, they're competing. So, you know, especially all the logos out there, they're dealing with thousands. So on top of the social media about stay positive and all that stuff, show your depth of what you do.
Gotcha. Tiffany.
Kind of what everybody was already saying, but I think the big thing to take away is LinkedIn is not Facebook, and it shouldn't be treated like Facebook. not the place for the politics and the fun, like fluffy articles and things like that. And then just from a female perspective, it's not a place for flirting. It's not a place for inappropriate comments. Those come through in messages and on my posts. And it's supposed to be a professional platform. And I don't know if people are using it that way all the time. So just be aware of what you're putting out there.
Yeah, that's great advice. Thanks for
Yeah,
that.
can I throw one more
Yep.
thing in there?
Yep.
And Tiffany just sparked my brain on this is be careful of who you accept a connection with. Because who you are connected with is a reflection of you and what you're about. And so you do want to be on guard. There are some nefarious actors, and you do want to report that to LinkedIn. So be very, careful who you're connected with. And also, I would say when you connect with people on LinkedIn, always use a personal note. Always use a short personal note when you connect. Otherwise, they're going to blow you off because they're like, why are you connecting with me? What's going on here? You're making me try to figure it out, and I don't have time. So, yeah, great point.
Yeah, I've experienced when people try to connect with me, I often I don't know who they are, and so I'll often say, "Hey, thanks, but why?" And I do it in a much nicer way. But all right, that was awesome. We're coming close to closing time, so a lot of information here today. Just a reminder that we will have the recording on dvvc.weebly.com. We'll post it to the Facebook page, to LinkedIn, and to YouTube. To everybody that attended, thank you very much. I hope you found the information useful. Panelists, thank you so much. I love the kind of the broad array of experience that we have on here, so thank you very much. Thank you also for being members of DVVC. And thanks for everybody to attend our meeting. Our next meeting is January 22nd. And we'll have committee meetings then. And we're the January meeting is going to be talking about future planning for DVVC. Of course, it'll be a Zoom meeting. And just like I said earlier, the planning for Zoom meetings, obviously we're going to have breakout rooms, so it's going to be really fun. I want to say thank you to Jen and Katie, the TMF web administrators. Thank you very much for making all this happen. And thank you very much to my executive committee for making all this happen as well. Thank you, everybody. Have a great weekend. And yeah, Lynn, yep.
Yeah, don't forget to save the chat. Click the three little dots in the bottom right-hand corner before they click off the meeting. That's all I wanted to say. Thanks.
No, excellent. Thank you for that chat, for that, Lynn. You can save the chat. So any last save round, any alibi fires? Those are all military terms. All right, cool. Thank you, everybody. Have a good day. Have a good weekend.